It is said that the people are the lifeblood from which the state's power flows. No truer statement has been uttered in the time that the Confederation has found itself in. A time in which humanity's population numbers so low as to rival antiquity itself. Such depletion brought about by great war, infighting, and the harshness of nature. But humanity has a tendency to persevere through even the toughest of climates that may afflict it, and the Confederate government knew this fact well, as did many who still had the capability to think of such things. But now it had come to the forefront of the Confederation's mind with the liberation of Diana, which brought back nearly 9 million people into the fold of the Confederation. Those 9 million people represent more than 5% of humanity's population, a valuable resource and vitally important to reignite the Confederation's ruined industry. So it was decided on the Senate floor that these people would be reincorporated immediately. This was supported by the idea and justification that they were still Confederate citizens and would be recognized as such. On Diana, however, it was a different story. Many had lived under oppressive rule for more than a decade while trying to scrounge out a living on a hostile surface, under the keel of warlords who hoarded wealth and power. So while the Senate kept up the act of a peaceful liberation and rekindling of humanity, in reality this was far from the truth, with militia being brought in to keep order within the new territory. A hypocrisy to be sure, but a necessary one. Diana was but a first step, and now up next in the liberation of humanity was an operation designed to retake the planet of Apollo, a planet which used to be a core colony of the inner system, and from the sensor readings, still contained a significant population to this day. The first part of the operation had already been fulfilled. The first command squadron, commanded by Consul Claudius himself, would be sent to Apollo to ensure that the space around the planet would be secured for any ground landing. While doing so, they would come under fire from the planet by what was observed to be barely operational relic guns from the Great War, grazing the Resilience and barely damaging its armor plate. Consul Claudius then immediately ordered the destroyers Vantor and Kelio under the command of Praetor Lucio Caenius to destroy the attackers, and within seconds the Praetor had the vessels shelling the ground-based weapons, resulting in an overwhelming barrage utilizing superior technology from the Great War, leaving the archaic ground weapons in ruin. Now with the space around Apollo secured, the fleet moved in to assess potential enemy ground forces, while the consul signalled to the main fleet that ground deployments could be made when possible. Such deployments had been planned out ever since the liberation of Diana and would involve nearly the entire Confederate ground army, as sensor readings and estimates put Apollo's ground defense capability at 4 times that of Diana. With that in mind, military command dispatched the 35th Infantry Regiment to reinforce the 34th Infantry Regiment and the 2 armoured corps that were already on Diana. The total operation would involve 23,000 army personnel, over 2,000 naval personnel, and significant levels of equipment, including 600 armoured vehicles and the main body of the Confederate fleet. Such a commitment was risky, and that fact was acknowledged by military command, including quite a few senators who raised some eyebrows, but it went away and it occurred anyway, with the belief that Apollo must be reclaimed before the Ares technocracy can get their hands on it. With the plans in motion and the space around Apollo now secure, the forces assigned would begin their deployment. It was expected that the resistance would be significant, so first the tank corps would be dropped hard and fast into the drop zone to secure it, then infantry would follow after to hold the territory taken. Eventually, once a sufficient area had been secured, the militia would be dropped and used to occupy the surrounding cities, towns and settlements. It was expected the entire ground assault would take 1 to 4 weeks. This was just an estimate, however, and many planners would fear that the planned occupation of the world would last too long, cause too many casualties, and overall tie the Confederation down long enough that the Ares technocracy could take advantage of the situation. But what was done had been done, and now the military had their orders, they would be achieved no matter the cost, for the Republic and for the people of Centaur. Welcome back to Shattered Empire, Episode 4. Now, there's a few things I have to go over before we get into the Chronicle of the Confederation, and that is, first, I apologise for the lateness of this episode. I had to do a lot of stuff earlier this week, and unfortunately that meant that it had to be delayed until now for the release, so I do apologise. Furthermore, I also want to give thanks to people participating over on the Discord. They've been doing a really good job, specifically Praetor Lucius Caenius, who has been helping with handling all of the organizational stuff, assigning officers to the correct areas, and you'll be able to see that now on the screen. as we have Primus Centurion Daniel Hinkle assigned as commanding officer of the Vantor, Adria Holoran as commanding officer of the Caldas, Levry Igorovich Titasov assigned as commanding officer of the Implacable, the corvette the Implacable, Carol Budrow assigned as commanding officer of the Caldas, and then yeah, that does tell you who's been assigned, but most importantly, these are actual people who made actual characters over on Discord that you can go and join in on. Now, where were we with the main fleet, with the operation? As you saw in the intro, we are preparing for the operation to attack Apollo. Because we need to seize Apollo if we're going to continue our ability to build up and prepare ourselves against the fact that there is the Ares technocracy over here. To do that, we're going to need to bring most of our forces. So, the 2nd Military Transport Squadron is currently orbiting Diana. Diana currently has two Confederate regiments over it. And it also has the 1st Heavy Support Group, the 2nd Heavy Support Group, and the 3rd Combat Engineer Battalion here. I'm pretty sure this should not be here. I think it's a bug or some other issue. So, we're going to begin that deployment immediately. We can pick up most of these forces almost straight away, and we've already secured the space around Apollo after dealing with the surface to orbit weapons, so this should not take too long at all. There were concerns by military high command and by the Military Development Bureau, which currently manages most reforms and development of ground forces, as well as ships and others, that our tank battalions are running out of supply, and that is correct here. So something that I'm going to do, they suggested to go and build an emergency supply battalion, but I've decided that I think the best thing to do is to take supplies from logistics supplies from the regiments and hand them to the heavy support groups in an effort to alleviate supply concerns. So I'm going to head 30 to each, temporarily at least, and that should then allow a resupply of those vehicles relatively easily. Of course, that will increase the size of the vehicles or the size of the formations, but it should not be an issue. Alright, now we shall prepare for the invasion itself. We have a lot of battalions here, a lot of brave men, over 23,000 army personnel, and even the 2nd Infantry Battalion, Apollo's lost, is going to actually be returning to Apollo with this invasion. And let's hope that it goes as well as we expect it to. We have 150,000 tons of capacity, so we're going to begin to immediately start lifting up these forces. So let us load ground units. We need to load up all of the regiments, and they will be dropping with the main tanks as well. And then we want heavy army support groups and heavy army support groups as well. And that should be around 100,000 tons, 112, 20,000 tons. Then we're going to load up the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th militia groups, while we're going to leave the 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th to continue that occupation of Diana. But yeah, here we go. Move towards Apollo. That'll take 3.7 days for them to arrive at Apollo. So, but first they have to load up the ground forces, so just have to wait for that to occur. There's quite a few ground forces, so it does take quite a bit of time. Looks like they weren't able to actually load up what we wanted to load. Heavy support group, armed militia groups, 1st infantry. Yeah, looks like we've loaded most of what we can load, and we're not able to actually load all the tanks that I'd want. So, okay, we got basically what we need here. We don't need anything else. And now we're going to head over to Apollo. 1st Expeditionary Fleet is already there and waiting. Now we're going to begin immediate orbital drop. Here we go. On the 23rd of March, 2181, the Apollo invasion shall commence. Set colony species, what the hell? Oh, I know why it's like that, because we conquered some people. I think, anyway. Let's try do. Why is that not allowing us? Let me try do this in the system view here. There we go, Remnant Apollo. No, might be a bug. I'm not too sure. Either way, it's not of too much concern. So we're going to do a orbital drop, which we should be able to perform if I am looking at it correctly, because these should all have drop bays onto them. Last I checked. Yep. Let's begin. Looks like they don't. I need to check that design really quick, because I do believe they were capable of doing that. True transports. No, they were not. I'm thinking of another one. Alright, here we go. We're beginning the initial drop. We also found quite a lot of uranium and boronite on the 13th moon, which is interesting. But here we go. We're doing the full orbital drop. Completed orders. Forces are on the ground. And I'm going to make sure that all forces are assigned correctly to their orders. We're going to keep on a frontline defensive action for now. At least until I have further information. I'm going to also put the combat engineer battalions into the shield wall. So we'll do that immediately. Put them behind and safe into where they need to be secure. And all of our logistics, of course, will need to be on their echelon. Tanks are on frontline attack, and our militia are on defensive actions. Let's hope the invasion goes well. 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. Engagement has occurred. Here we go. We have lost. Okay, we're taking much heavier losses now here, ladies and gentlemen. 148 army troopers, 2180 died. 79 mortar teams, 71 anti-tank teams. In response, we have killed 703 armed civilians, 216 heavy weapon crews, 137 armored trucks, 79 bombardment crews. Significant casualties are on both sides. That is for sure here, but we are actually taking actual casualties now. This is not a joke anymore. That's 150. How many men would that be? That would be, I would say, a good 600 men have died in the last 8 hours. So this is a pretty hostile environment, and we are taking heavy losses. Okay, here we go. Engagements are continuing. Tanks seem to be largely unaffected, and we're mainly just taking small casualties, but army troopers are dying and falling on the front lines. Casualty rates are much higher for their side, though, as we continue our brawl through Apollo, through attempting to take the planet. 107 army troopers more die now, and we do gain more information on the enemy weapons. We give them the designation Confederate, so we can assume from what we are seeing here that these are former Confederate troopers that are using old Confederate weapons. So that explains a lot more why we're taking casualties, because unlike on Diana, some of these guys actually have some training. They know what they're doing, and they're not incapable completely. We're going to continue our attack here and hope that we can take the planet. We are killing quite a few of them. We lose about 300 men every single round. And we continue to go through combat phases. More troopers dying, though the casualties are lowering, while the enemy's casualties are not. And they are continuing to actually rise in terms of total casualties. The heavy tanks are continuing to go forward. They've eaten through most logistics. These are some very hungry vehicles, or armored vehicles, but they are doing fine, and the heavy support groups are now at 100% supply and continuing to maraud through the enemy as best as they can. The infantry battalions are also fairly well dug in and getting their supply, and we're starting to win the day and push the enemy back. Mainly just militiamen are now dying, while we are able to cleave through the rebels who continue to try to defend their tyrannical ways. The heavy support groups are continuing now to achieve breakthrough attacks, which is causing significant casualties on the enemy side, while losses continue to lower for the Confederate forces, but the losses are still something. Compared to Diana, this is no cakewalk. We started this invasion on the 23rd. It's currently the 29th of March. So it's pretty insane how many casualties we've taken. We're also losing tanks and propelled artillery guns, but we are able to break through, and casualties have ground to an absolute halt here. I'm going to give the order now for all forces to begin immediate frontline actions towards the enemy, in hopes of breaking their backs and stopping them from continuing to engage us. Here we go. We're going in. Frontline attacks. Casualties are still minimum, and we are continuing to cleave through enemy formations. We should start to press through. Yep, our heavy tanks are starting to keep their breakthroughs up, and we are getting through the enemy forces. Casualties continue, however, and we are trying to hold down. Infantry battalions finally being able to break through there, achieving breakthroughs across the line and scoring significant victories for the Confederacy. Only a few militiamen are now damaged, and we are closing in on final victory. Currently, it's the 3rd of April, 2181. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the start of the invasion, and supply and morale is moderate. Confederate forces do have some reduced morale, however, and the heavy tanks have started to run out of supply, which is causing issues. Obviously, an overestimation of the abilities of those tanks to be able to to be able to continue in the fight for a significantly extended period. A clear weakness, it seems there. We continue to go through. The enemy does not seem to be capable enough, and we are barraging through now, though, the 6th of April as it is now, and we are closing in. The last enemy forces are but a few, and we are starting to kill the rest of them. Only a very select amount of enemy forces are left on the planet. It's currently the 12th of April. We've pretty much secured the planet, but there are still a few enemy forces left hanging on, attempting to survive and hold their position. Frontline attacks are still occurring, and we are taking little to no casualties whatsoever. We're fighting more of a guerrilla war at this point, which seems to be occurring, but we're now finally breaking through the last remainders of resistance, and we have destroyed every last ton of ground forces, I do believe. And there we go. Enemy forces on Apollo have been defeated and the population surrendered. After a brutal campaign, the great army of the Confederacy has managed to do it. If we have a look at casualties, supplies down on many battalions. Casualties are ranking in for many. We dropped on this planet with 165,000 tons. We've lost 45,000. If we have a look at the army support groups, we've lost at least 80 tanks and 80 medium tanks and around 60 self-propelled artillery tanks. We've also lost the supply for them. In terms of our infantry, we also have supply issues as well, and losses have been pretty significant on either sides. But we have claimed victory. And now we shall have a look at our spoils of war. What have we claimed for ourselves? Apollo, conquered territory, rift valleys, an ancient construct. There is even fuel and maintenance supplies on the planet. Most importantly, we found ourselves another research facility, which is a dime a dozen these days. That increased our capacity by a significant amount. Conventional industry, 38 conventional industry, which could be converted into mines or automated mines or further industrial capabilities. Maintenance facilities, deep space tracking stations, military academy, and a naval headquarters. It seems that we've taken their headquarters. We have also secured a significant population. We've secured a population of 61 million, giving us an insane increase in total humanity population for the Confederacy of 25%. This has been a splendid success, but we will need to continue to occupy the world, and it's going to require a lot more forces to do so. In my opinion, what should happen is, first off, we need to move over the ground forces that we did have on the invasion. And then we're going to bring back our boys, bring back those who sacrificed so much. Besides the militia must stay and must fight. And those militia will continue to occupy the world, while the main regiments and tanks will be brought back to Apollo for a grand parade, in hope anyway, that we can... I hope that we can bring up the morale of people and to show the superiority of the Confederacy. And we're just going to unload onto the actual area and assign ourselves. Looks like an administrator was assigned to the governorship of Apollo, and we also have a research facility on Apollo, which we do need to actually put research into. For now, I'm not sure what the Senate will authorize that lab for research purposes, but it is there and ready. We are also getting ready to build up our new vessels, and we can begin to purchase the first ever Owl class vessel. So we're going to put in an order for that. There we go, the Canary class vessel, the CSS Canary. That'll be done on 2182 June, so it'll be done within a year of time. We're continuing, and we've finished the transportation job, and that should now mean that if we have a look over at Apollo, we have the needed occupation value, as we can see here. The efficiency is low currently until we can get the people on our side, get them to work with us to bring back a better Apollo for all. The atmospheric dust kicked up from orbital weapons fire also is a concern, but we will have to hold for now in that regard. I am going to begin the transportation back, though. We're going to detach the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet. Queso Mutius is going to be defending, as ordered by myself, and all the consuls to defend the planet as we get it rebuilding. And now I'm going to load up all of the professional army units. So that is the Confederate regiments, as well as the heavy army support groups. And we're going to bring those home to New Solaris, both for, as I said, a celebration, but also for the fact that we still have an enemy close at by, and we will need to be able to have our ground forces in a close enough area to be able to appropriately handle them if they so choose. One thing that we do need to do, however, is survey Apollo. Apollo could contain significant resources which, as we know, we're currently having issues with. So we're going to begin a geological survey of Apollo immediately, as the days will go by here. And the Amistad Rust will begin surveying duties, slowly doing so. But we have secured all of the inner colonies, and this is a great victory, because it means that the enemy will not be able to. We've discovered 200,000 tons of uranium and 70,000 tons of thorium, as well as a ruined colony and an ancient construct. Very good for us, and just fantastic overall. Let's bring ourselves back to New Solaris, as I suggested, and the military transportation squadron is also heading back with, I presume, many proud senators and myself at the helm, ready to assist. I am going to order the 1st Expeditionary Fleet back towards New Solaris at all due haste, and we're going to hopefully begin our next phase of the Confederacy, where we begin to establish colonies on places like Diana, Apollo, and we really ferment ourselves on military outposts like Vulcan. But for now, the 1st Military Expeditionary Fleet needs to head home. And in terms of the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet, they will begin to need a full refit. So I'm going to have them join up, or have a tanker join up with them, and we're going to get them home as quickly as we can, just to get them refitted, resuited, and prepared for any further engagements where it is needed anyhow. That should take 7.5 days. I did not want you to join them, however. It looks like there was a mix-up in orders. Let's have them join up with the fleet over there. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. And now the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet under command of Praetor Queso Mutius, heading back to New Solaris to help celebrate the triumph. Though he was not allowed to participate in the invasion, he does have some sway, significant popularity and sway over the inner system. So, what that'll be capable of is quite interesting. We found some neutronium on Aristeas, and looks like the Alatan has complete orders, which means we fully surveyed the entire system in terms of geological survey, and that is very interesting indeed. So I'm going to order a full stop to surveying efforts. and I'm going to order the Aristeia or the Eltanin to begin immediate refuel, resupply, and an overhaul at the colony. But yeah, the second expeditionary group is coming back as well as other vessels. I'm going to order a immediate refit and overhaul. As you know, in the cinematic or the intro, we took some fire onto the unfortunately onto the Resilience, and so we're going to need to order up a repair of that, but we can't do so because we lack the necessary capability. So I'm going to authorize an emergency expansion of the repair yards to 18,000 tons to enable us to repair the vessels that we require. Stockpiles are also looking healthy and industrial capability is increasing. We should have these next 2 mines finish up here soon. We're going to continue to increment along here. Praesor Cato Mucius has arrived, and we are going to be detaching the tanker and beginning an immediate overhaul above the colony, in hopes of getting us ready for a potential invasion of Ares. Meanwhile, occupation, it's been quite a few months now. I think about 3 months since the invasion of Apollo, and they are starting to come more to our side. So is Diana, now just a subjugated world, while the Apollo people are merely occupied instead of just the immediate of being conquered. So we're going to continue to increment across here as we close out the year and prepare to go into the next one. At the end of this year, there will be re-election campaigns over on the Discord and over in the Senate. For Senate positions, for those that are currently holding positions, they will have to be holding re-election campaigns, and that will be held about the end of the year. And they will have to submit to that. We're also going to continue our construction of more mines as requested by the 2072 budget. So we're going to construct 3 mines and 6 construction factories at a time here, as the 2181 budget, which was signed in 2180, and we're going to continue the production there of what we will be needing. But overall, our situation has changed drastically. And now, with that fact at hand, the planets are currently just waiting, however, and we'll be needing new governors, we'll be needing new assignments, and a plan will have to be had in the Senate on what to do with these new worlds. Well, not new, however, but reincorporated worlds. And yes, I think that's why I'm going to leave the episode off. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and please just like, comment, subscribe. Consider becoming a member. It really does help me out, and you have to consider that these episodes take me quite a long time to do, and I will try and put more and more effort into them as possible. Goodbye.